publish it. They shut her down. She's a florist now.
The guy that was on this documentary, he's very much like that. He found, I think he was doing, is it LiDAR that sees through the canopy of the trees, and he actually found like a few other like mounds that were pyramids. I think it was Mexico.
Oh yeah,
and he looked at the evidence and stuff, and it predated everything the archaeologists have said. So it would turn literally the history on its head. And when he goes to present this stuff, he's shunned. He's shunned by the scientific community, and it's ridiculous. But I suppose they've got their interests to protect, haven't they? And
yes,
they're doing it very well. But hiding the truth, it's not good.
Well, again, it's like if we've got living dinosaurs, if we have other creatures that they're supposedly been dead for hundreds of thousands of years, or millions of years in some cases. Again, is the physical Bigfoot a Gigantopithecus? Is it a human? I don't know what it is, right? The physical one, but whatever it is, we probably have it in the fossil record somewhere. If we live in a world that has paranormal creatures, that have entities that again, then we don't have the worldview, or we don't have the world we live in is not the worldview we've been sold.
Yeah.
It isn't what it doesn't show. It's not what shows up in your science textbooks. It isn't what we teach the kids, and it isn't the philosophy that people who rule the world are ruling by, right?
Yeah.
They're telling us that we're just cattle that got lucky, which is why we're smart. That we're essentially cosmic accidents, therefore we have no transcendental value, and therefore they can do whatever they want to us. They can rule us however we want.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, to Wild Bill's point. Yeah, exactly. The Cherokees had pyramids. Even the mountains themselves are indications of an advanced society. The Mayans, there are tribes in Georgia, Florida, where the word Maya is in their name. They were satellite. Yes. They were satellite tribes. The Americas were way more abundant. There's plenty of reason to think that there was ancient contact with the Americas. The copper from the Great Lakes, we found float copper in the Mediterranean. It's very, very likely that the copper that really fueled what we call the Bronze Age came from North America, and that when they lost the Antikythera device, they couldn't make the trip anymore. That supply of copper shut down. You have the Bronze Age collapse, which no one knows why it happened. But if you don't have the copper for your bronze, there you go.
Yeah,
you have an economic collapse, which is what we see with the Bronze Age collapse. There's genetic evidence that shows that maybe that people were coming from the steppes, right, from the Euro-Asian steppes. They migrated here only 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. That around the same time that you've got a lot of these horse, marauding cultures in Asia going all the way into Europe, that some of them came here. And that they are part of this wave. That again, the Mayan collapse. Why did the Mayans disappear? Well, maybe because people showed up, they destroyed the culture. They then become the Aztecs and some of these others, and the Plains Indians. There's reason to think that we've got evidence that ancient Hebrew people made it to this nation. Same thing with ancient Celts. Same thing with ancient Romans. Apparently everyone made it here. The Chinese made it here.
Yeah,
everyone seems to have made it to the U.S. or to the Americas, but nobody wants to talk about it because it throws off this idea that we were just dumb and now we're smart. That's the idea, because that's the evolutionary thing. Is okay, we were dumb and now we're smart. But again, biblical worldview says no, we were always smart. You have this cataclysmic event.
Yeah,
a very advanced culture was destroyed, and that culture spreads out, and then from that, everyone starts building new cultures and infighting and moving from place to place. And that's, again, that is more indicative of what we actually see. And that cultures that we think of as primitive, like the people who built Stonehenge, where you're from, right?
Yep.
There is no reason to believe the people who built Stonehenge couldn't have built a pyramid. except for population size. In order to do something like the pyramids, you need a large population. They didn't have that, but they had the same math. They had the same understanding of of celestial bodies. There's no reason to think they couldn't have built them. They just didn't have the population to. And that seems to be, in a lot of these ancient cultures, the thing. They didn't have the population to build this, but they had the knowledge, which is why you have burial. Again, we call them burial mounds. They're not really burial mounds, but they have all the same mathematics. They have all the same precision alignment. They didn't have the workforce because, if you're building a pyramid, you've got to have a lot of people to feed the lot of people building things.
Yeah.
Right. It takes a lot of manpower. So it doesn't look like anyone didn't have the knowledge. They just didn't have the manpower to do some of these things. So they did what they could. And that seems to be what we're seeing. We had a centralized culture that spread out, became all these new cultures. And then we spent the last however many thousands of years trying to wipe each other out because we're jerks.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. With the Stonehenge in particular, they actually found relatively recently that on the outside there's wooden posts as well, so it would have been a lot bigger structure. And they do keep changing their minds on what it could be.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it was a religious place where people would go to sell their goods. That makes perfect sense to me. The place where it is, it's quite central to that area, so it would have been perfect. And going back to the days of Jesus and Nazareth and all the Middle East sort of areas, places of religion there were places where they would have stalls to buy your produce. So I think it's just an offshoot of that. They come over, they built it, and people come from miles around to sell their wares. That's about it.
It's a centralization. That's all it is, and and again, that's how humans operate. What do? We put our places of worship, we put our markets, we put them all in the same place, and then we will go home. That's how we operate. Again, what was it used for? I'm ambiguous. Like, okay, let's just see what the data says. We keep finding new stuff anyway. I don't think we have to be 100% decided on everything. We can just say, well, where does the data lead us? But the broader data is kind of clear on this. The story we're being told in the mainstream isn't about what the world is. Doesn't comport with what we actually see in the world. We see living dinosaurs. We see paranormal activity that doesn't make sense. We see archaeological discoveries that don't make sense from this worldview, but they make a heck of a lot more. Exactly. Towns and cities is what we call them. Yeah. And but it makes a lot more sense from what I would argue is the biblical worldview, that there was a better time, a more robust time. That time was destroyed. Everything survived post that. There was another event that separates humanity. We go out. So we have that same knowledge of how to do these amazing things. But then over time, between wars and building these new civilizations and other catastrophes and other plagues and other rambunctious animals, right? Like sometimes that knowledge is lost. Sometimes the people who knew it are lost. Things just regress. I was just not the newest episode, but it's one of the episodes of The Last of Us. One of my favorite scenes because I grew up a mechanic and I just absolutely hate all these post-apocalyptic films where gasoline has been sitting around for 20 years and it's perfectly fine. There's the scene where he addresses, again, no spoilers, but he addresses the fact that the gasoline isn't what it used to be. It's basically water now because it's deteriorated. I'm like, finally, somebody mentions this thing, right? Like Mad Max would have been a lot less interesting if gasoline behaved the way it does. But there's a scene where he's siphoning out gasoline from this car to put it in a fuel tank. And the girl he's with asks him, well, how does it work? And he goes, and he tries to explain it, but he doesn't understand why it works. He just knows that it works.
Yeah.
Right. And oftentimes that's how history has gone. We had this technology. Think about it. Somebody drops an EMP right now. We would go back hundreds of years. We would know how to use a computer, but we couldn't rebuild it. We even couldn't tell you how it worked. We would just say, look, we used to have computers.
Yeah. You just turn them on, push the button and they come on.
Exactly. So there's a lot of this. So a lot of knowledge that we have would just disappear because we could only transmit certain amounts of information to our descendants. In 2 generations, so much information would be lost. If you have, again, some marauders come through, they kill the wrong people, diseases come through, they kill the wrong people, that knowledge is gone forever. And so it's just essentially people would decay, and then the technology would go down, and then we'd have to relearn stuff. And that's what we see from an archaeological perspective. In fact, if anything, all these ancient cultures were very advanced, and then they collapsed, and then they built back up, and collapsed again, and they built back up, and now here we are on the deck of on the bridge of the Enterprise D.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. That's it. Well, we've got about 4.5 minutes for the end of the show. You said you've got a book.
Yes.
Where can people buy that?
Let me snag it real quick. Hold on, I have a whole spiel. If a smarter person would have had this ready to go.
Yeah.
Metroplex Monsters, Dallas Demons, Fort Worth Goatmen, and Other Terrors of the Trinity River. Available wherever fine books and trashy rags are sold. But you can go to Amazon, type in Metroplex Monsters.
Okay.
I've got other works. It links to my page on Amazon. I've got other books out on the Revelation 12 alignment from 2017, still going on. Other things that I've done. And unfortunately, there's a book on there that's clearly not one of mine. I can't get it off. Like I've asked Amazon to remove. Like, that's not me, but they still have it on there. So if there's something that seems really weird, that's not me. I'm the other weird stuff. Okay. Or you can go to sirupapers.com, SIRUpapers.com. It's my website. I'll be updating here in the next month. I'm relaunching the show. But it's got links to all my books as well. You can find me on Texas Front Porch, doing Jason McLean Questions Everything every Wednesday. Again, Texas Front Porch, TEX' Front Porch, because it's his front porch. And then on Tuesdays, like today, I'll be on Untold Radio AM with Dean doing Mysterious Library. And I do have another channel, Siru Papers, but it's we're going to have new videos out on that in the next month or so. I'm refreshing that.
Okay. And if anyone's got any sightings or anything else they want to contact you over, is there anywhere in particular they can go for that?
You can just email me at Siru Papers, SIRU Papers, at yahoo.com. And again, or you can go to Texas Front Porch. It has, the links to all of our stuff is in the doobly-doo, and we can take, you can give your sightings to Tex, you can give them to me, you can give them to Bigfoot Michigan Rob. But again, you can just go to sirupapers.com, SIRUpapers.com. That's got the links to everything and everyone. And again, to all the books. So if if you're like, I don't know about Bigfoot or living pterosaurs, but I want to know a little bit about eschatology, I got some books there for you as well. And then again, Siru Papers on YouTube. Again, that's got links to everything. I've got plenty of videos on it, but I'm doing a relaunch over the next month, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll need to get you on again.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I appreciate you.
Definitely go through some of the other books that you've got going.
It sounds like fun, man.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so thank you for joining me, and thank you everyone that's been in the chat room. And if you haven't been in the chat room and you're watching it later, thank you for watching it later. Brilliant. And I shall see you all again next week. Bye-bye, everybody.